Hello all, so we're going to do another video for you today. This is a card that I've seen about that I really like the look of, so investigated how it was made, watched a few videos, saw what other people were doing with it, and then thought, you know what, I'll try it my way. So this is the way I've come up with it, not necessarily how everybody else has done it, but this is the way I do it. So let's have a look at what we're going to be using today. So, sorry you got my arm in there. So we are going to be using a few of our stamps. So we've got the dot dot set, which is one of our $12.99 sets. So you've got lots and lots of little individual stamps on there. We have also got the birthday cake stamp, and purely because I'm using the happy birthday that's on here, I particularly like this font, and it works quite well with this card. We're also going back to one of our older stamps, and I think we're all quite guilty of this. We get new stuff, and the old stuff that we loved when we bought it doesn't get used. So I thought, you know what, we'll go back to some of our older stuff today. So we've got our Wild Flourish, which I love. I can't wait to show you what we do with this. We're also going to be using the Tartan stamp, and we may bring in some of the Splish Splash stamp. I haven't decided yet, so that might be on the list as well. We're also using our banner punch, so if you haven't seen us using this before, it's one that I use all the time. It cuts a 1.5 inch, 2.5 inch and a 2 inch banner, but if you're clever you can cut whatever size you want up to 2.5 inches. So yeah, that's quite a handy piece of equipment to have. We will also be using Distress Oxides in Tattered Rose. Sorry, my antique linen foamy bits come off the top, so it looks a bit yucky. Antique linen, wild honey, and shabby shutter. And obviously our usual VersaFine Onyx black with our crystal clear embossing powder and our sticky glue, which comes in the 2 different sizes. So let's get this cleared away and get started. Just also another little reminder to let you know that once again, my goodness, we have the foam pads back in stock. So these are 25mm by 25mm by 2mm thick, and you get 1600 on the roll. So there's lots and lots of pieces to this card, I'm afraid, ladies and gents. So it's a bit more complicated than we have been doing of late, but I thought it was time to do a little bit more of a challenging piece for us all. So let's take this off. Oh, wrong piece. There we go. So that's us ready to roll. So there's lots of pieces here. So I've written it all down, and I've had to write it down in grid form because otherwise we weren't going to have a clue what we were doing. Right, so we have an 8x8 card, which, as you all know, are all slightly smaller than an 8x8 with the cards that we use. So I've cut a 2.5 inch piece off the front flap, but actually we're going to be using the card this way up. So I've taken 2.5 inches off. Now I would suggest, purely because obviously these cards are much thicker card stock than a normal weight card that we would use for crafting, I would suggest you sacrifice one card if you like this particular project to use for the side flaps, which will make sense in a few minutes, and just keep cutting it to use, because we're going to be, although we've cut this section off, we also need 2 pieces which are just under 2.5 by 7, and you're going to hate me because there's lots of these pieces, 13/16. Now if you're not sure what a 16th is, bear with me a second. If I can get my camera in here and get you up close enough to it and be able to talk at the same time. So we have a 2 inch, and then we've got the small little lines down are the 16th, and the larger ones down are the 8ths. So we need 13 little ones. So it's going to be to here. Okay, hopefully that made a bit more sense. I've just seen I have an air bubble in my glue, so that's going to cause us a bit of fun in a few minutes. So you have 2 pieces that are cut to 2.5 inches by just under 7 13/16, and you're going to fold those both in half, and they eventually will stick on here. Now this is where I said to you, people do this all differently. Some people do it in a long strip and wrap it around the back. Some people do it as the side flaps like I've done here. As you can see, I've written myself a little note inside there. So that's going to actually fold the other way because we're going to cover that over. So we've got these two pieces and I'm going to stick them here. And the reason I say just under 2.5 inches, because although we've cut 2.5 inches off here, that needs to kind of close on it, if that makes sense. So if they're exactly 2.5 inches and it's not cut perfectly straight or whatever, it's going to cause you a problem. And then these flaps are going to open up like so. It will all come as clear as mud as we're doing it, I hope. So I'll pop those to one side. Right, so we have also got to go on those little flaps. As I said, I've had to do this on my information. It's in little grids to be able to get everything right for you. So we have got, these are the layers that are going to go on here. So as I said, I'm going to hide my little notes that I popped on there. So these are the layers that are going on here. And these are 2 times in white, 2 times 2 3/16 by 3 5/8. I know I can hear you all cursing me. Sorry, I'm just too precise. You don't have to do it exactly like that. If you can cope with the lines being bigger or whatever, the layers being bigger, go with it. And then the black pieces to layer underneath are 2 times 2 1/4 by 3 3/4. So you can see why the odd bits come in, because we only need a real little frame around the edge. So if you don't want to, don't do the layer. That's entirely your choice. Obviously this is your card to do what you want to do with. I'm just telling you the measurements that I did it under. We're going to be using the banner punch, as I said. I've already cut my black pieces, but the white pieces I've got, and I've already done my smallest one just so that, because it's going to take us a little bit of time to work on. So with the banners, we have got in white one piece which is 2 by 5 inches, and another piece which is 1 1/2 by 4 1/4 inches. And then, as I say, I've already done my banner black layers, which are just 1/4 inch bigger. So the black, my smaller one was 1 inch by 4 inches as well. And then, so obviously everything's gone up by 1/4 inch. So we've got a 2 1/4 by 5. We've got I'm reading this and confusing myself. 1 1/4 by 5, and 1 1/4 by 5, and 1 3/4 by 5. See, look, even with my grid, I'm confusing myself. They're no different in length. It's just the width I've widened on the black to the white, because it doesn't matter, because this is all going to be hidden underneath, so it doesn't matter the length, but the width, because obviously I wanted them wider as we're going along. So I'll pop those to one side. You can see how complicated it is because I'm laying everything together. It sounds worse than it is. Once you get going, it's much easier. Now we're on to the basics. So we have 2 pieces, which are, the white is 4 1/2 by 6. Let me double check that. Yeah, sorry, the white is 4 1/2 by 6, and the black is 4 5/16 by 1 1/8. So again, it's just giving us a really, really tiny little white border around, or black border around the edge. Again, you don't need to do it. It just ties everything in together, as you'll see from the colours I've chosen. It just ties everything together. The next piece we have is 5 inches by 7 1/2 inches. And then this one is 5 inches. No, I lied. This one is 5 1/8 by 7 5/8. Again, just 1/8 bigger. And then the piece that hides all the workings, our white piece is 7 1/2 inch square, and our black piece is 7 3/4 inch. So that one's a nice and easy one to remember. So we're going to get started because we are already almost 10 minutes into this video and we haven't even started stamping yet. I'm putting all the black pieces out of the way, getting all my white, excuse me, all my white pieces together. I just found that by doing it like this, you're not constantly chopping and changing stamps. You might chop and change a little bit, but not constantly. So here we go. Got all of our oxides together. And we are going to start with, I think we'll start with the tags. So with the tags, I'm doing one in a solid colour and one as a tartan piece, just to add a little bit of interest to it. I've got it all already done, just in case something goes wrong. So I've spent ages getting it all prepped ahead of time. So we've got the Tattered Rose, and I am literally just going to wipe my ink pad all over this piece of white cardstock. As you all know, this is the Anna Marie Designs 300 GSM cardstock that we now have on our website. And here we go. And remember that little trick I told you? Just take your sponge onto your blending tool and just run over your mat if you haven't got time to make a background with that excess ink that's all over there. So that just saves some ink. You will have some left on here. You will need to wipe up a little bit, but the majority of it has made it onto your sponge, which is always a good thing. And then with the larger one, I'm going to use the tartan, and I am inking up with Shabby Shutter. Now I have a feeling at the start of this video I told you I was using Bundled Sage, but I'm not, I'm using Shabby Shutter. So if I did, I'm sorry. Now make sure you ink it up, and remember, as I've said before, because these are such square ink pads, you need to keep moving it around so you don't get that line. Now I have a little bit of OCD, so I would be quite precise about how I stamp this out, but you don't have to be, because I want my, I'm trying not to get my head in the camera, but without much luck, because the light is bouncing off my, oh, do you know what, we're just going to go with it. We'll stamp that down. Press hard, it is quite a big stamp, so you want it to get covered. And then if you're feeling really brave, just go in and give it an extra rub over the back there before you lift it off. And then we have our stamped image. Just wipe those bits off and quickly over the top of my stamp, just because I know I'll end up putting something on top of it that I will really regret. So we'll pop that out of the way. So we have our two pieces for the banner ready to roll. So now we're going to be cutting our banner. And all you do, they've got little slots. Let's bring this in a bit closer for a minute. So we've got the slots either side of this punch that the 1.5, 2 and 2.5 inch fit in. If you haven't cut it to those sizes, just aim to get it in the middle of the wherever. So if you've gone for 2.25 inch, just get it in the middle of the 2.5, and it will work out perfectly. So you just slide that in there, push it up against the back and press down. And the same again with this. This one's still a little bit wet, so it might not want to play the game. It's curling as we're going in there, so there we go. Pop that in there, press it down. There we go. So we're going to then pop these out of the way. And grab our black pieces that go with. My black for my shorter one is a bit too, I've done it longer, but do I need to? Yeah, as I said to you, I have everything already stamped out, ready to go. So we're going to go in with that, and we're just going to pop a bit of glue. As I said, I have an air bubble in my glue, so it's going to give me some fun. So if you do ever get these air bubbles in your glue, unscrew the lid and pop the bubble. Pop it back on, and away you go again. But they can be really annoying when you're doing it, when you're working with it, so don't let that happen. If you can avoid it. So we're just going to squiggle some glue. She says, squiggle some glue on here. You're getting to see all my sneaky little notes that I did. Because I've written on the back of them all just so that I didn't miss something. So, and that's it. We're just going to lay those off to one side. Same with the tartan. I've cut my black a bit short, I think, there. Well, maybe I hadn't. There we go. Now, this is what I said to you, look, how I try to get quite precise. This one is going to annoy me because it's not in the middle. But that's just me. As I said to you before, I have a little bit of OCD when it comes to things like that. We're not going to see the back of this, but if it's going to bug you, you can cut that extra piece off. Sorry, my glue, this air bubble is very persistent on me today. Bear with me, peoples. I will be back. There it is. I knew I'd got one in there somewhere. I just had to find it, eh? Now all I've got to do is pop it. It's in the nib. Now we'll be good to go. Happens to us all, look. Right, so onto our layers. I'm going to start with the two smaller pieces, and we are using predominantly our dot range, but we may bring in some of the Splish Splash as well, just to add some texture. Says grabbing the wrong block that it doesn't fit on. So let's get started. Going to use this one first. Now it's the biggest set of stamps on here onto the two smallest, because all the circles are quite tight on here, so I wanted this tight section of circles. Lots and lots of little light taps, and we're just going to take that onto the card, and this is using Wild Honey. I just find doing the two together quite easy because they are little, so it won't take very long to build this up. There's no right or wrong. Make this look how you want it to look. It's completely your card. Somebody asked me the other day what it was like doing videos. Do you know, it's a bit strange doing videos. I enjoy doing them, but I get nobody asking me questions or coming back to me, so it feels a little bit weird sometimes, but it's still good fun. But I'm hoping that you're all enjoying them as much as we are making them. It would be nice to know what everybody thinks. I know you've all been giving me some lovely comments when I've spoken to you during lockdown, so thank you all very much. I'm glad you are enjoying it. Obviously lockdown's been lifted from a lot of us and a few of us have gone back, so if you're watching this further along the line than September 2020, you'll wonder what on earth I'm talking about. But I think this year will go down on record. Be one of those ones that we will all be remembering forever. Now, the other side of this stamp didn't touch the desk, so I can use that bit of ink. And literally all we're going to be doing is building this up. Now, we're going to build the whole section of it up. So it is lots and lots of chopping and changing between cards, or between stamps, to get the image that we want. I do try and make sure I take the ink to the stamp, not the stamp to the ink, because you do get a better finish. But sometimes I cheat. Shouldn't admit that, but I do sometimes. And I'm trying to make sure they're not too exactly the same either, because otherwise it will just be a nightmare. So we're going to take this bigger stamp. I'm going to put some of this on there, but I'm not going to use the full stamp, although I will be inking the full stamp. It's just to make them completely random and different. As I say, you just make it how you're happy with what it looks like. And the lovely thing about these ones is if you don't stamp them perfectly, it really doesn't matter, because nobody else knows it's not stamped perfectly. Only you. And if you don't tell anybody, they're not going to know. So we're going to take in a little bit of the antique linen now. Now, I didn't go crazy with the antique linen because it can dull it down a little bit if you're careful. If you're not careful, should I say. So don't go mad with this one. But definitely don't forget it's there either. I think I need a few more dots on there. So I think I'll take this set and bring in just a little bit more. Yeah, that's lifted it a bit, hasn't it? It was getting a bit drab. Can't do drab. We're going to be doing lots of this building up block that you're seeing me do here. Lots and lots of it. Unless it gets too long a video. I mean, we're at 22 minutes already. We might not get all of the stamping done, which is why I did it ahead of schedule. So we're going to keep building it up. Let me just pop these two to one side because we have got two that I finished earlier. And then we're going to take the Wild Flourish. Now, I'm not going to stamp this one out on this particular occasion because when I do the big centerpiece, you'll see what I mean. But what we've done is we've popped on just sections of the Wild Flourish with the black ink on the top and crystal clear embossing powder on the top of that. So as I said, I'm not going to go and stamp them all out for you now, because when we do the centerpiece of this card, it's exactly the same technique, so you'll understand. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue on the back here. And this is precisely why we had something we made earlier, because you don't want to be watching me stamping like that all day. We could be here a while. But it's really therapeutic. And as you all know, I tell everybody, as you go along, if you can put your pieces together, do so. It's less pieces to lose once it gets everything out and about. Because we all like it. We all get everything out, don't we? Fill the table. And don't use half of it. So there's just 2 layers mounted up, ready to go. Again, pop those off to one side. I'm going to come in and do the main centerpiece, because that's the piece that you really need to see being built up. I think would be the better piece. So again, we're going to build this card, and then we're going to be putting that fabulous Wild Flourish, this one. Oh, sorry, the light's bouncing off it quite badly. This stamp, and it's got really fine detail in it. Can you see all those lines? So we're going to be popping that in the centre of this card, so it will really make it pop. So, go in here. And I've said before, we are happy to try and do any of these videos in any particular things that people are interested in seeing. We did do a couple of cards on Create and Craft a couple of weeks ago, and I know not everybody watches Create and Craft, so I know not everybody's seen it. And obviously when we do those demos, they are done so fast that quite often you'll miss pieces and ideas on what to do. So we might go back and revisit some of those as well, because we have been asked a few different things. I think if I go in with that colour, it's going to be too bright against those. Let's take in some Tattered Rose. And these are colours I don't often use, so I thought I'm going to take myself out of my comfort zone today and try a different tact. And I think, because as you all know, I do use pink and green all the time, you know that, but it's a pink and green colours, although they're pink and green, not ones I ever go for, but I really thought these worked quite well together. I think most of the oxides work well with each other. Now, because I've used a light colour, I could, if I was being really cheeky, just go straight in on the top of that and not worry about cleaning off, but I'll be good. If I wasn't filming it, I probably would have just gone straight in on the top. So anybody got anything particular they would like to see, or something they'd like to see again, please email us or contact us via Facebook and just let us know, and we'll try and do what you're all asking for. I have had one lady ask me for me to show them how to do the background dye that I briefly showed on our Facebook Live a little while ago with the background dyes. See, look, broke my rules, but it's such a tiny little stamp. I'm being a bit cheeky. And I'm just going to go in. It fits perfectly over the top of that ink pad, so, and I'm not being particularly cautious about whether it stamps out 100%. So do as I say, not as I do. Isn't that the famous saying? Do as I say, not as I do. I'll try and remember not to do that again. But it's a habit. It's just a habit. So it looks like outside we're back to another lovely day. I know not everywhere in the world is having lovely weather. Not everywhere in England is having lovely weather. But we seem to be quids in today, so I'm going to enjoy it while we do. It's nice to see the sunshine. It makes everybody seems happier when the sun's shining. Even if it's cold sunshine, as I used to say. I like cold sunshine. Oh, any sunshine makes me happy. So much nicer. Now, I'm not putting anything in the middle, but I'm not going particularly heavy with anything in the middle. I think we need some yellow flowers on there. So we get some wild honey. I don't know where he got this name from, because it doesn't look anything like the honey I've ever seen. Not that I'm a honey connoisseur, but you know what I mean. And it's just a case of remembering to turn the stamps around. Don't do everything all going in the same direction. Try and give a little bit of something different to them so that they don't look like they've all come out of the same factory, so to speak. And no card that you do like this will ever be the same. And that's the beauty of it. Nobody will ever get the same card from you. I think we need more yellow flowers on there. And this is the bigger flower set, so I can sometimes try and be sneaky and pop one that's going to sit in the centre of a bubble or something like that, just to make them stand out a little bit. It's going to put me around the same way as the one above it, so we're not going to do that. So I think we're almost there. You can overkill it. You don't really want to do that. So we'll leave it at that. I'm going to give it a really, really, really quick blast of, I'm going to put the lids on my inks before I do that. A really, really quick blast with my heat gun, because I'm going to put some embossing powder over the top of this. And I don't want it to stick to where those inks are. hopefully that will have dried it off enough for me not to have to worry about. I should maybe have just checked that before we were lucky it didn't come in. I think I'm going to pop in a little bit of Splish Splash, but I don't want that solid section that's there. So I'm just gonna, oh yeah, like that. So there is a solid piece in the centre of this particular stamp, so I'm kind of working around the edge of it rather than taking in that whole section. It just, believe it or not, it can make such a difference to what you're doing just by adding in those few extra pieces. You don't have to do it, but I quite like it. So there we go. I'll just quickly wipe off that. As I said, I'm very good at putting things on top of it that I would rather have not have done and having to go back and do it all again. So I'm just going to pop these stamps out of the way. If you could see, everyone says to me, you're such a tidy crafter. If you could see what my table looked like at the side of me here, I'm certainly no tidy crafter today. So we have now got our finished piece here. And we're going to take our Wild Flourish and ink it up with the Onyx black. I'm also going to undo the lid of my embossing powder. Now this takes quite a lot of ink, so be ready to keep going over the top of it, work that ink. Don't be scared to put too much ink on, just don't press really hard, just go over the top of it, lots and lots of little light taps, and there's no pressure on that finger at all, it is literally just to balance it. Because if you press too hard, you go into all the fine detail of the stamp and you'll lose all that fine lines that are on there. You're then going to stamp this as near to the middle as you can, and if you don't, then it was meant to be off to the side, if anybody asks. It's a big stamp. Spend the time to give it the pressure it needs in the right places. I do give it extra pressure on those particular flowers where it's solid dark, whatever colour you're doing this in. I give it just a little bit of extra pressure. I'm going to also turn it over and give it a bit of a rub. You don't have to do that, it depends how brave you're feeling. I'm going to whip that off, and I'm going to get the embossing powder on there as quickly as I can. It's a big stamp to fill, hence I had the embossing powder lid open. Then I'm going to tip the excess off. Remember, as I always say, light tap, don't give it a good flick. And we're going to heat this up. Again, I'm going to heat this from underneath because I don't want to, it puts a barrier between you and the embossing powder. If you're not happy doing that, you don't have to do it from underneath. You just won't get such a shiny image. It'll be a bit more mottled, but that's fine. If that's the style you like, go for it. So we are going to heat the heat gun up. It is going to be a bit loud, I apologise, but I'll get it done as quick as I can. Mind your fingers if you're heating from underneath, it does get very hot very quickly. My heat gun always does that, doesn't it? It has a key change halfway through. Probably be a really big musical bit, wouldn't it? With that key change. So there we go. And if you look really closely, it's tiny, tiny. Oh, I'm completely gone out of camera. I'm completely out of shot. It is picking up the really tiny, tiny little lines that are in there. So that is our stamped image. And remember, I said to you earlier about the two pieces I did for the flaps. That's exactly the same way. So you stamp it out in the black and you heat emboss with the crystal clear. While it's still warm, give it a bit of a wiggle. Now the one I did earlier isn't quite as busy, so the choices I mean, as I said, I did one just in case it all went wrong. So choice is up to you which way you went with it. So we'll stick with the one that we did on the video, and we are going to layer that up too. Now I'm actually going to pop some foam pads on the back of this one because I want it to have a bit of dimension. And also I find with the foam pads, I quite like to do the foam pads on pieces that I have embossed, particularly if they're larger pieces that are embossed, because it can tend to curl your paper a little bit, and as much as you try and wiggle it out, it doesn't always work. So by popping them on foam pads, it makes it a little bit more forgiving for you as well. You're getting almost secret little tips and tricks, aren't you? Remember the glue on the back, just because they're so super sticky, and we haven't given ourselves a lot of leeway on the edges to give ourselves the border on this one. So remember, it's only that 1/8 of an inch, which you'll all curse me about later, I know. So we're going to just layer this on here. I am going to pick that up because I need to see what I'm doing with this one. Okay, so I am not going to stamp all the other pieces that I have cut to show you because I've already got them stamped and we're already 36 minutes into this video. So I am just literally going to layer these up. Actually, I want another foam pad tucked in there. Bear with me a second, because where it was curling, it's not stuck in that area. So I just want to try and force another one in there just to lift it. It has stuck, you know what I mean? It's got the curl of the paper, so we'll pop a bit of glue on the other side as well. This is not something I've ever done, certainly not on a video. I think we've got to be able to, yes, we've still got some wiggle room there. Pop another foam pad in there. That looks better. There. And we're going to do the same at the other end. See, you're all learning at the same time as me. We've still got time. No, that one's not going to be as nice to me. I'm going to try and slide this in the bottom here. As long as it's out of sight, that's what I care about. There we go. There, that's better. Happier with that now. So we're going to layer these up as well. And the glue obviously gives you that wiggle room to get this all right. And then my centerpiece that's going to go on the inside, I've stamped the happy birthday in. Now I embossed this because it's such a large piece, and the piece you've embossed in the center, it can really make your card curl quite a lot. So I did this yesterday and just left it to sit flat underneath something heavy overnight. If you don't want it to curl and you want to just get on and do it, I would suggest maybe not heat embossing your sentiment in the middle. But again, that's your choice. And you're getting to see all my scribbles. Thought I was quite good at hiding all my tips and tricks, but now you're getting it. One of the other tips, which I've never thought about sharing with you before, is when I'm looking at building my cards up, and they're sort of ones that have got movement and dimension and stuff in, I get repositionable tape and I piece everything together with repositionable tape. All I use is actually post-it note on a roll, and I take a piece out, I curl it over. Have I got a piece that I haven't stuck down yet? No, that was my last piece. So if I wanted to work out where something was going, I pop that in the back and I would just build up my whole card just using those, just to give me a rough idea on how it's going to look. And it makes so much difference on, it saves you a fortune on wasting cardstock too. So there you go, there's another one of my little secrets coming out to you. So that's that piece done. Now we've got to build this all up together. Just get rid of some of this. Need that piece, I nearly got rid of it. So we're going to take our card. Don't stick the big piece down yet, leave that to one side for a moment. we're going to position this piece in here first. Put that down. Now when you're doing this, when you're stamping this particular layer, you don't need to worry too much about this piece in the middle. I started decorating, I thought, what are you doing that for? Because we're actually going to be covering it over. So you're not going to be seeing that section in the middle. So if you're aware of that, it will make it a little bit easier for you. Right, we're going to stick this down. Now, as I said to you, I've seen some where people have done a long strip and put it in behind. I like to try and kind of hide all my workings. So you're going to line this all up with the edges of your cards. Try and work a little bit quick, because while they're still wet, you've got some wiggle room to marry these two up properly. See what I mean? Get those two flaps in there. And obviously you can see a join in the middle here at the moment, and I don't particularly like that. And if you wanted to really go to town, you could decorate the inside panels of this too, but I thought that was maybe going a little bit far for a video. As much as I'm sure you love watching, you don't want to still be here 3 hours down the line. So we're going to pop this on this panel here. And we will pop the other one. Now I'm going to put the other one going the opposite direction, because I don't want them to be side by side exactly the same. I'm going to flip that up going the other way. My base card's moving, not my top layer. And I want my layer to move. There we go. I think that's about right. So that's the base of the card. Now that we've done that, we can stick the centre piece in, because it's going to hide. You'll still see a tiny little bit down the bottom where that is, but it hides the majority of the workings for you. And it's those little finishing touches, I think, that really make it. If you are going to do it so that you wrap it around the back, make sure you use the same colour cardstock. There are hundreds of different colours of white, so be aware of that. So there we go. So that's your centrepiece popped in there as well. Just press that down, make sure that's stuck. Your little flaps are going to come over there, and this one's going to come down here. We're then going to pop on our flags, again roughly where you want them to be. I'm going to pop that one on that side, and then this is going to sit over the top, so I want to make sure that that top flag is going to be below where I want it to sit. I'm going to stick the top flag down. I might raise the other two up on some foam pads, because I'm going to do the big piece, the centrepiece, on the foam pad as well. So hopefully that's below. I'll just double check again before I press it down. Yeah, that will be good. Might bring it out a little bit actually. Bring it across to the edge a bit more. Get to see a bit more of that tartan then, don't we? And it needs to be straight, of course. Just want to lift that to make sure, yeah, we're good. Again, a couple of little foam pads on our there we go, a bit of glue. My goodness, 45 minutes, this is madness. I'm trying to hurry, I promise. But I think it's a card worth spending a little bit of time, and I really enjoyed making this card. So I'm hoping that you will have all enjoyed watching it and having a go at making it yourself. Again, before it gets stuck down too strong, I'm just going to pull that one out a little bit further. Again, I want it to be straight. And then think about when you're putting your foam pads on. Top needs foam pads because it's been lifted, and the bottom doesn't need, she says, as she's stuck them in the wrong place. Yeah. We're not sticking anything in the bottom quarter of this card. Remember, don't stick anything in the bottom quarter. Already pulled that one. So it's going to sit there-ish. I think we're about in the middle. I think we're straight. Give it a push. It might have been slightly down on that side, but that's how it's going to have to be now. Remember, we haven't done that because this is going to flap. And then the idea of this is that it will stand up like so, with the flap hanging out. In fact, let's try this. I've got a box here. I wonder if I can do it like this. Flip it round so that you can see it. Hang on a second. Let's see if we can lift this without dropping it. Other way, Amanda, other way. I'm trying to spin the... Oh, I'm doing everything in reverse. So that is what you're going to get, something along those lines. In fact, I think the box is making it worse, so I will just hold it up. Wrong way. See what I mean? So it all balances, and then when you close it, it all tucks in together, and you have a card that looks like so. So anyway, that's that card. I will lay it flat, spin it round so that you can... Oh, sorry, you got my whole hand in there. That was horrible. So you can see the finished card. Get rid of all my rubbish that's in the way. So that's what we've just done, and I'll just run through what we have used again for you. So we've used the dot dot stamp set. We have used the happy birthday from the birthday cake. But this card would work really well with that birthday cake in the centre of, instead of the wild flourish. So that would work good for that too. We've used a little bit of the Splish Splash. We used the Tartan stamp, and we used the wild flourish stamp set. The colours that we have used today are Shabby Shutter, Tattered Rose, Wild Honey and Antique Linen. We've also used the VersaFine Onyx Black, Crystal Clear Embossing Powder, our sticky glue that comes in the two sizes. I'm not going to lay my big one down because somewhere in amongst this is my lid. And we also used, if I can find it, our banner punch. Couple of other ideas on what you can do with this particular stamps that we've used today. So this is using the Wild Flourish again with our mesh stencil, and then we've used the Wild Flourish here with I just die cut a circle out of a piece of card so I can blend that, and then we've got the brick wall stencil. We've got our Create and Admire stamp on there, and obviously the Wild Flourish. This is using the birthday cake, so as a pop-up box, lots of bright colours in that one. This is another way of using the dot dot just in the background. So this used dot dot and extra lines as well as the shoe. So you can do so many different ideas with this. This has got dot dot in the background, it's got tartan in the background, it's got Splish Splash in the background, and it has also got the extra line stamp set in there. This is another way, again, I've used the tartan with the banner punch. I think it works really well with the banner punch. It is a fabulous stamp on its own, but I also like to use it just as the smaller sections. And this is using the stamp as a solid piece, so that gives you the completely contrast. We also have the birthday cake using the tartan stencil as well. So let's go back here again. So that's everything that we've used today. That's our finished card. So we've got dot dot stamp, wild flourish, tartan stamp, birthday cake stamp, and if you wanted to, we had the Splish Splash in there as well. I hope you've all enjoyed today's video. I know it's been a long one, but I think it was worth it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. As I said, if there's anything that you would like us to do, or anything you would like us to see or to show you how to do, you can email us on honeydewcrafts@gmail.com. You can contact us through our website, honeydewcrafts.co.uk, or you can see us on Facebook. We're just down as Honeydew Crafts on Facebook. Hope you've all enjoyed. Have a lovely day. See you soon. Bye.